everyone, and welcome back to Carlton Carnivores. I've got another species spotlight for you guys today, because we're going to get ready to be repotting this soon. This is the first in a rather interesting group of tropical pitcher plants that I'm not entirely sure why they fascinate me. I think it's just because the differences between the species are ridiculously minute, so it takes a lot of close examination to actually tell between the different types. But this first one comes from Thailand, and it is a species that is not common, and this is Nepenthes kongkandana. This guy, you can see it's got a nice basal shoot coming up right here, and then this main vine has been growing for quite a while. Unfortunately, it hasn't started producing upper pitchers just yet, I think because it's been hanging down for a bit. But it's loaded with all of these little beautiful red pitchers, just like the basil is here. Now, Nepenthes kongkandana is endemic to, and forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, Songkhla province in southern Thailand. Much like many of these species in Indochina, it's kind of a micro-endemic. The Indochinese species, again, they all look very similar. They're very closely related, and it's likely that the harsh seasonal environment that occurs in Indochina and the resulting variation in habitats and the extreme dry seasons they occur has resulted in a rapid evolutionary radiation event with these guys. So different species in different areas separated by unsuitable stretches of habitat due to those extreme weather conditions has resulted in local populations splitting apart from each other and becoming all their own different unique species. These guys are not only known as the Indochinese group, but also as the pyrophyte group, because those harsh seasons, the dry weather during the dry seasons, results in a lot of wildfires occurring. And oftentimes those might occur every year to every 2 years. And so these guys have to be able to withstand that. And how they do that is all this growth that you see up above, all of this can develop within a single year, sometimes less, because as soon as the dry season comes through, they have to have caught their food, they have to have flowered, produced seeds, and when the fire hits, they die back to these thick, tuberous root stalks. I'll try and get a photo of those up for you guys here, and they survive those fires by living underground as those roots. Once the fire goes by and the wet season, the monsoons return, they sprout back up and begin their growing season again. Now, Nepenthes kongkandana itself, mine, because it's in this tiny little pot, is not producing pitchers that grow up to the full size, but they are roughly representative of what these pitchers should look like on this species. These guys produce very thin, very elongate leaves. They're either lanceolate or very narrowly obovate, meaning one end of the leaf is just a little bit wider than the other. Mine is kind of producing more obovate leaves. And again, the Indochinese species, they often look really, really similar to each other, and so small details on the plants are what actually separate them out. One of the ones for this species is that if you were to look very closely at the leaves and the tendrils, the stems, everything, the whole plant is covered in a very, very fine layer of hairs, a very thin indumentum, and that indumentum stays on the plant throughout the entire life cycle of those leaves of the pitchers. A lot of its close relatives, even if they have similar looking pitchers, might have even the hairs for a time, but either those hairs will fall off or they are only present on certain parts of the plant, like only on the stems or the leaf axils, or again, only there for part of the life cycle of that leaf. The pitchers can grow roughly about 6, maybe 7 inches tall for a really big pitcher, and they are kind of roughly ovular in the bottom, and they might be more or less ovoid throughout the pitcher, but usually in this species they reach this kind of hip in the middle of the pitcher and then narrow, become a little more cylindrical up above. And then the peristome, or the mouth, rises up and it's kind of oblique, it's teardrop shaped, and the peristome is usually relatively thin and evenly shaped all around the mouth. The color on these guys is usually this lovely kind of reddish coloration, maybe a little bit of orange or mottling, but that deep color is one of the things that separates it from another of its relatives, Rosea, which we may see a video on later on. But those are the lower pitchers. They've got these lovely wings with the frills coming off of them. Upper pitchers, and again, this plant isn't producing any right now, but on a nice long vine like this, it normally would be if this were going straight up. But I'll try and get a photo because I have had them previously. Upper pitchers are roughly kind of tubular throughout, and they might retain this same kind of reddish coloration as the lower pitchers do, or they become much lighter, kind of creamy, yellow-greenish, usually with dark blotches inside. And that also distinguishes them from some of their close relatives like Thorellii and Campotiana, which have differently shaped upper pitchers. Now, again, this is, like the rest of its relatives, part of the pyrophyte group, so one of the things that these guys actually like is experiencing a little bit of seasonality. Now, they don't need to have like a true dry season in cultivation like they experience in the wild. They can tolerate much more wet conditions overall. Like these guys, I've never had them dry whatsoever, but you might see them slow down a bit in growth, particularly during the hottest part of the year or the coolest part of the year. It might vary. When that happens, it's actually okay. You can kind of let them dry to just barely dampen the soil. You'll see them slow down in their growth, and this might actually help in triggering them to flower, because as the season dries down, that's when they're usually producing their flowers, and then once the dry season hits, that's when the seeds have been released. Fires go through, hopefully the seeds survive through that, and then sprout in the newly opened ground after the fires. They'll tolerate your basic conditions for any lowland Nepenthes. These guys don't really like it cold, although they might tolerate a little more cool conditions than other species, since Indochina they can get somewhat cool nights, but they'll usually do best in a lowland environment, so 85 to 90 degrees during the day, fairly high humidity, although again, since these come from a seasonal environment, they can tolerate a lot lower humidity in many cases. And then at night, temperatures shouldn't be dropping much more than 65 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. They can be kept warmer than that even, or they can tolerate cooler again, but preferably not for a long time. The soil that they are in, again, with most of my Nepenthes, they get all the same soil. It's roughly a 1-to-1-to-1 mix of sphagnum, perlite, and then I also use either orchid bark or cocoa chips, just because my conditions are fairly wet and humid, so something that's more aerated is good for these guys in my conditions. You can tweak that to fit whatever your conditions might be, but overall, yeah, just kind of a cool species that, because again, it looks so similar to so many of its relatives, and because a lot of these species have only been described in the past 5 to 15 years, it's not common in cultivation yet. So with repotting this guy, I'm hoping it'll decide to flower, and then I can start cutting it back, and hopefully I can help make it a little more common in cultivation by adding some cuttings to root, because these guys tolerate such harsh conditions. Usually those vines are fairly good at rooting in various different conditions as well, so they're fairly easy to propagate. But that's about all that I have for this species at the moment. If there's something that I might have missed about it, if there's any questions that you have, certainly leave those down in the comments below. Hopefully I'll be getting a few more videos like this done in the next few weeks as I repot more of especially these guys' relatives, but also some other odd outlier species that I'm going to be dealing with in a little bit. If you enjoy videos like this, educational videos, or the animal wildlife trips that I take, do make sure that you subscribe to the channel, turn on the black bell so you don't miss any updates coming up. Leave likes on the videos, leave comments, watch the videos all the way through too, because those watch hours really mean a lot. They help the channel a huge amount. You can also find more information on my website, carltoncarnivores.com. I've got the database and blog on there where I try and post things, information files and such on the plants and animals that I work with. And I'm also always posting photos and little video tidbits and such on social media. Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Carlton Carnivores. If you'd like to help in a more financial manner, though, I do, of course, sell a lot of these plants that I grow, as well as if you happen to be looking for a new pet, I sometimes have baby snakes available for sale, or resin gem jewelry. There's also, those are all on my website, carltoncarnivores.com. There's also the merch shop at Teespring. You can also become a member at Patreon, where members do get special benefits back, like access to the monthly seed contests, early access to the videos and new products that I release, new plants and such. Or you can also donate at Coffee. But all the links for these things will be in the video description below. But until next time, I'm Hawk and Carlton, and this is Carlton Carnivores.